no politics, we promise. So that's a nice thing. And we have a wonderful studio audience with us, so make yourselves known. Come on. There you go. All right, so it's been beautiful, absolutely stunning weather.
Oh, yes.
I don't like it.
It was like nice and cool this morning. I was surprised.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
Not really humid, really nice, so you can enjoy the outdoors. And so to get us started here, we have a few programs that are coming up this fall, because unlike a lot of other things that got canceled, we're not canceling. Our programs, our educational programs that we offer here every fall. And so Jennifer has a lot to do with those programs and organizing those and putting those together and teaching those. So I'm going to let her talk about those. So the first step, we have Explore Junior, which is our brand new program.
Yes, so this is our new program. This is designed for kids in kindergarten through 5th grade. So you see up here, we're having this year a brand new program at the Arc, which we're really excited about, that includes a sloth encounter. So that's going to be pretty cool with pictures. So that'll be neat. We're going to have a special dinosaur program here with Buddy Davis, where he'll teach them how they sculpt dinosaurs.
That's neat.
Then we have a zoology program, botany as well. And then we're actually going to have our brand new hike and seek with Peter Schremer, the very gentleman from our new series on Answers TV. He'll be leading that adventure over here at the park, so we're excited about that.
Yeah, it's a really great program because we haven't been able to divide it up before, so now we're able to divide it into 2 different age groups and really allow just a better experience for everybody. So then we have Explore Days as well.
Yeah, so Explore Days is for our older kids, 6th grade through 12th grade, and I just want to say registration is open for all of these, and some of these are already half full. So
we're posting the link, so you'll be able to see them.
So make sure if you're interested, you register right away. So you can see up here, we're offering earth science, and we're going to have a 3-hour microscope session with Dr. David Menton, who's one of our expert anatomists here, and he's going to be covering all kinds of different tissues on the microscopic level. We have another event at the Arc for those older kids as well as botany. We're going to have an outdoor program, and we're excited about our very first expedition to Red River Gorge. So that's going to be pretty awesome. So that'll be a full day hiking event.
Yes, so bring your hiking boots for that one. I'm going to be at all of them too this year, so I'm super excited to be a part of this, and it's just really great to see kids learn about God's world through His Word, and so we really enjoy that. And then we have one last program, which is our high school lab.
Yes, our high school labs, we're offering 3 this year: biology, chemistry, and forensic science. I teach the biology and the forensic science, and Mr. Roger Patterson, who is the star of our Unlocking Science, as well as Answers News, he'll be teaching chemistry. We are in our 3rd year, and it's just been very successful. Biology's already sold out, so we do have spots in chemistry and forensic science. And it's a chance for those homeschool kids to get a full lab, high school level practicum right here in our science lab. So it's a great opportunity.
It really is. My daughter's been in it for 2 years. She'll be in it for the last year for forensic science that we have at least right now. And she's really enjoyed it. It's a really great program because we always say science is collaborative. I mean, you don't do science in isolation. You do it with other people. And so it's a really great way for students to be able to interact with one another and get that, and get a lot of professionally instructed, but then also equipment that would be hard for you to obtain at home and be able to use at home. So we can provide that here. We have a special lab that's designated just for that. And so, so if you're interested, like I say, all the links will be posted there, but just sign up early because lots of other things are canceled. And so these programs are even more popular than ever. We usually sell out anyways, but they're even more popular now. So make sure you sign up for those. So, all right, our first story of the day.
All right, this one is really kind of neat. We liked this one. Spiderwebs gather DNA that can help us monitor insects in forests. So what scientists have done is they've actually been able to collect spider webs and run DNA analysis on those spider webs, and it's pretty amazing what they discovered. They were finding like up to 25 different insects and other types of species DNA. And they said what was really fantastic is that they didn't have to worry about identifying each of those specimens because they can just run the DNA analysis and get results for that. So pretty awesome.
I know Tim loves the spiders.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of spiders. I don't mind the little ones, but the real big ones, I'd rather not see them.
Yeah, they're a little creepy.
I'm not really afraid of them, but they're a little creepy.
Yeah.
But it's really a neat thing. I'm surprised people haven't thought of that earlier. You know, just examine the spider webs and see what different DNA materials on there, and you don't have to go through the woods or the forest and and collect everything and disturb everything. You just wreck a spider web or two, and that sounds good too.
Because they want to find out, like, what are all the species, what are all the organisms in any given environment? Because everything, like, is collaborative. It's all working together. It's all part of that ecology or that environment. So they want to make sure that they're preserving those things. And, you know, some species are what they call keystone species. So they're really, in other words, key to that particular environment. So this is just a very non-invasive way of being able to sample what's there. And it just shows you that DNA is everywhere. All throughout, it's in the air, it's in the soil, it's everywhere, and it gets collected.
And spiderwebs are kind of like a filter. You know, the wind blows things through and it catches and sticks on there. So yeah.
It'll be interesting if we find some creatures in there that they thought were extinct or something too. I mean, they haven't yet, but
they could, or that they haven't seen. Some critters are so small or so elusive that it's hard to catch them, so to speak. So this is a way to see what's there. So very cool. Technology, quote unquote. All right.
Okay, appeals court ruling for adoption agency applauded. So this was some great news. Federal appeals court decision actually ruled in favor of the Christian group New Hope Family Services because they were being targeted because they adopt and foster children to only those families who believe in a traditional marriage between a man and a woman. And so they were being targeted for their beliefs, but they did rule in their favor, saying that that was acceptable. So. And
that's something that is rarer and rarer these days, sadly, because of what's happening in several states, at least, is the Department of Health Services or whoever is over the adoption agencies has basically said, you know, you cannot discriminate against gay couples or against unmarried couples. You can't discriminate against those, and if you do, then we're going to shut you down. And so fortunately, there have been a few cases where the Christian adoption agencies or even any along those lines that want to say, hey, we have certain religious beliefs and we want to hold to those beliefs, are allowing them to be able to do that.
And as you were saying earlier, I mean, they don't have to go here to adopt, right? Or
no,
to foster,
that's my thing.
They
always
have other options.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I like what Russell Moore said. He said, those who disagree with the beliefs of those caring for children have every freedom in the world to build institutions to help children and families. What they shouldn't have the freedom to do is to drive out those who are there now, standing and serving because of their beliefs. So Christians, because of our beliefs that every single human life, from the moment of fertilization, is made in the image of God, and therefore has limitless value because of God's image, we have started hospitals and orphanages and adoption agencies all around the world. Christians have been doing that for 2,000 years.
Right.
And yet we have a world that tells us, oh, Christians don't ever do anything good and you guys are all selfish. And yet, what are all the hospitals named after?
Exactly.
It's not atheist organizations that are starting these things. In many cases, it's Christians who are starting these things. And then you have a secular worldview that comes in and tries to drive them out and say, no, you're not allowed to operate anymore. And yet, from their worldview, oftentimes there's no point in trying to care for those children. They have no basis for doing that. Where we do.
Yeah. And I think, too, one of the things that we need to realize is that in any of these types, like a church or like a Christian organization like we are, or this adoption agency, they have certain beliefs, and according to the court, somebody's always going to be discriminated against. I mean, somebody's always going to be said no to as a result of that. So, the LGBT say, well, we're being discriminated against, but then we can say, well, then we're being discriminated against. So somebody is always going to be, quote unquote, discriminated against. But that's what makes the organization what the organization is, right? I wouldn't go to an atheist organization and expect to be elected as their president because I'm a Christian. Why would you elect me as your president? I mean, that would be foolish, right? Because I wouldn't hold to what the organization holds to or believe what it does. So, but that's what makes the identity of an organization, whether it be a Christian organization or any other organization, what it is. And so we have to still allow those freedoms here in America and allow people to do that, hire, fire according to that, all of those things, and be able to run their businesses as they see fit. And so, yay, the courts finally
I think it'd be great if Dr. Purdom was the head of one of these atheist organizations. Anybody else like to see that?
It'd be a very different organization if I was.
Yes, it would.
So, yeah, that might be interesting. So we have lots of people joining us. I've got Oregon on here, Idaho, Alabama. I just say Moscow. Yeah, Idaho, not Russia. So, so lots of good people joining us. All right.
Awesome. All right, fossil tracks. Wrong number of fingers leads down the wrong track. So as we see often in articles like this, they're always changing their mind,
yeah.
right? And so they have changed their mind again, basically based on a new discovery of a correctly pronounced how did we say it was?
Temnospondyle.
Temnospondyle, thank you, temnospondyle. They found a new crocodile-like temnospondyle that had 5 metacarpal bones, whereas a long time they believed they had traditionally had 4. Right. So this caused them to kind of reevaluate their evolutionary.
Right. So they realized that a lot of the fossil tracks that they thought could not have been made by these guys because they thought they had 4, not 5, could actually have been made by these guys. And so that's what's causing them to reevaluate basically all of that. And in case you don't know what a temnospondyle is, because I didn't, I had to go look that up. So it's sort of alligator, crocodile-like-ish sort of animal. So this is the actual bones of it. You can see its head is like huge. And then this is an artistic impression of what it may have looked like. So sort of lizardish, type of thing.
Yeah, and we see this often in these articles where they've told us for a long time, this is the way it was. There's no ambiguity about it. They just tell us this is what happened, this evolved into this, and then suddenly, a new discovery. Well, we were wrong about that before. Well, here's what it really is now. And then they'll go and they'll change it again in the near future. It reminds me of the one we did a week or two ago about, they said that humans weren't able to handle, axes and other things like that because originally, early humans they didn't have the same number of fingers, they didn't have the same strength in their hands. And it's all based on the fact that they just hadn't found that many hand bones yet. Because they don't usually preserve very well. I mean, they're the little bones in the hand that you get more of the long bones and everything that survive. And so they're making all these claims based on a lack of evidence, and that's not really a good.
No.
Well, as a forensics person, would that be the best place to go for launching your argument from a lack of evidence?
Right, definitely not.
Okay.
No, you want to start with a lot of evidence. That's always good.
She's a forensic scientist, so she greatly appreciates that.
And I love how they use words like probably throughout the article and, possibly, because they don't know. They're
or
just,
assume.
all
over the place you see the word, science assumed that. Well, we automatically assumed this, and so as a result, they assumed incorrectly. So now they're going to have to rewrite a lot of this. And we see that often where they have to rewrite the evolutionary textbooks or the evolutionary ideas because, again, they either found more evidence or something like that, which changed their minds about, and science by nature does work like that. I mean, that, in some ways that's good because, they're observing a fact now that, it has 5, not 4. Okay, so they're going to go back and they're going to, try to explain that then from an evolutionary standpoint. And so that's good. That's how science works. But at the same time, we would say at the base, though, at the foundational level, they're starting with the wrong worldview, the wrong way to look at things because they're starting with their ideas about the past, which are constantly changing, versus the true Word of God that we know that, He created these organisms, their kind at least, fully formed, fully functioning, with 5. And it's not that they've over time evolved into less and less, which is the argument they try to make, that as these things evolved into other organisms, they lost toes. And that's why amphibians today have less than 5, basically, because they think this evolved into frogs and other things that we have today.
Right, and they've done that with horses throughout history. They've done with all sorts of other animals. They look at just the number of fingers and say, this is how it evolved in this way. The conclusion of the article goes right along with what Dr. Purdom was saying. These results are also of general importance since limb development plays an important role in evolutionary biology and medicine, and fossils may therefore provide important information for the evaluation of theories of hand development. Well, I could tell you how the hand developed. Read your Bible on day 6. What did God do for the land animals? That's when He created them. There was no evolutionary process. He created the land animals and man and woman on day 6.
And this is only one organism, too. This is only one fossil, keep in mind, okay? So one of the things they did bring up, and what we always have to be careful is when you're looking at just one fossil, that maybe this is just some sort of pathology, or maybe this organism had 5, but the rest of them have 4. They don't know yet until they look at more examples of this. They won't really know. But anyway, so that's always important when you're dealing with just one thing. Repetition is good in science.
Yeah, and we were talking about before we started here. There's humans who have been born with 6 or even 7. It's called polydactyl. That happens. It's really not all that rare.
God created us with potential for genetic variation, so we would expect to see differences.
Right, right.
Still the same
exactly.
kind, it's just minor differences. So.
Okay,
All right.
more dinosaurs.
Hummingbird-size
Maybe.
dinosaur may actually be a lizard, right? So we were
Birds,
all, I
dinosaurs,
would say
and
we were all a
lizards.
little confused by the article. What exactly, right, do they think it is? So they originally, I guess, I mean, there is one scientist who describes it as a bird, but then there, was further research, and it was actually discovered in 2016 in amber, and it's about a half-inch size skull. And you can see by the picture,
Right.
I mean, I look at it, I mean, it looks like a bird, but they're theorizing different things. Of course, some scientists are saying it was a dinosaur, and now they're saying, well, due to different scans and things they've done of the fossil, that it may be more lizard-like. So they call it 3 different things in the article, yeah. So.
They call it a weirdo, which is a
Yeah.
very
They actually
scientific
use the word
term.
weirdo.
Yeah, the weirdo.
Yeah.
Yes.
They said it's a weirdo with a bird-like head and roughly 100 super sharp teeth. And if it was truly a dinosaur, it would be the smallest dinosaur ever found, okay? Because it only weighs, it would only weigh, they estimate, again, this is just a head, but they estimate it will only weigh 2 grams. Which is pretty small. And so they said it's either, whether it's a weird bird or a weird lizard. So I said, well, maybe it's a lizard bird. They believe that dinosaurs evolved into birds, right? So maybe it's some sort of hybrid, between the two.
I mean, the original, how they take a fossil and make an artist's interpretation. If you look at the original article, they sketched it as a hummingbird.
Right.
It looked very much like a hummingbird, but now
Right.
they're saying
Yeah.
it may not be a bird. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is just another one of those issues like we were just talking about. Sometimes there's not enough to go on, and yet
Right.
you get too many people making these dogmatic claims about things. And Dr. Purdom, I'm sure you can speak to this more, but a lot of times in the scientific journals, they'll use language that's a little more tentative, but then you get the science writers, the popularizers, who write everything dogmatically, and then that's what most of the public hears, is that, oh, this is proven and this has been verified, and it really hasn't been.
Yeah. And it even said here, it says you just can't prove it unequivocally, in other words, what it is, with the available evidence. Yes. But, when this first came out, I think I remember this one. And they said, oh, yeah, it's the tiniest feathered dinosaur ever found. And I'm like, again, all that from just that little tiny thing that you're seeing there in that amber, which is actually very, very small. But one of the things they say, too, is, well, maybe this is really an example of convergent evolution, right? So I would say convergent evolution is the answer to every evolutionary problem they can't solve, pretty much. They just
Evolution
blame
of the
it on
gaps.
this, right? Yeah, it's like becomes the catch-all. This is the way it happens. So convergent evolution is the idea that 2 organisms that are completely separated from an evolutionary standpoint, have completely different histories, evolve the same things, okay? So maybe this is a lizard. Let's say this is a lizard, okay? Even though it looks like a bird, let's say it's a lizard. It evolved a head that looked like a bird, and birds evolved heads that look like birds. So they both look like birds, even though they have totally separate evolutionary histories. They're converging on the same, head-like structure or head structure. Again, it's just what we would call an ad hoc sort of argument. It's just after the fact. Well, let's just chalk it up to convergent evolution. We don't really understand how they could evolve the same thing, but maybe this is what happened. It's not an explanation.
It's a nice story.
Yeah. It's not an explanation. It's just, again, they have to come up with some way to try to explain these things. And when you think about it, what are the odds that 2 organisms that are completely different would evolve the exact same thing through random chance processes? Just saying.
It's a lot easier when you look at it through the lens of the Bible and say, oh, a creator designed us with similar design, right? Because we live on a similar world. We live on the world and breathe the same air and eat the same food. And so it makes sense that we would find
similar designs in different organisms. That's not hard to explain from a design standpoint.
Because those designs work. And
Yes.
that's why he's doing it.
You're not going to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. You're going to keep using the same design to accomplish similar things. So, okay, more dinosaurs. Good grief.
Lots of dinosaurs
This is
today.
dinosaur hour.
That's
Tiny
Or half hour.
mammals once scavenged meat from the giant dinosaur carcasses. So basically, they found a, what we would call a long neck, right? A sauropod dinosaur. And they found little tiny gnaw marks in the neck portion of the fossil. So they said, oh, well, these must have been, if actually they said it was the giant dinosaur had bite marks that could have only been made by small mammals, and that this is the earliest direct evidence that we have for mammalian feeding behavior.
Exciting. What was your explanation of this?
Yeah, I think they talked about it being on, on the neck and everything, and this is 160 million years ago, they were saying. And you know what? From a biblical perspective, God made the land animals on day 6, so they were all mammals and dinosaurs, and human beings lived at the same time. You know what? Maybe it was during the flood. I'm joking here, by the way. That the sauropods were the tallest animals. They're the ones that are still up there, and the little tiny mammals are clinging on their necks and just hanging on for a ride until they drown.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not, sometimes I think we're under the impression that evolutionists think that mammals and dinosaurs lived at separate times. They don't actually think that. They would say that mammals lived at the same time as dinosaurs, but they were very, very small, okay? Like rodent, almost like mammals, because the dinosaurs were really big and they were, it was really scary.
They were the big predators. You didn't have any large mammals that were predators.
They said the dinosaurs
so they burrowed under the ground,
right.
and they kept out of the way of the dinosaurs unless they died, and then they apparently ate their carcasses. So, and then when they died off, that's when we got the larger mammals sort of taking over. So that's sort of the idea. But anyways, yeah. So it's not surprising that we would find something like this, but it has nothing to do with evolution.
When animals die, animals feed on dead animals. It's part of God's design and cleaning up the system.
In a fallen world,
and it's not, it's not the first time we've found mammals, evidence of mammals eating dinosaurs. This is just the earliest from their time scale, from their perspective.
And it shows us too that, when we talk about these kinds of things, that death and suffering and animals eating each other came as a result of the fall. This was not part of God's very good original world that he created, but because man sinned, death and suffering entered this world, and we see that all throughout the fossil record, which is a result of a flood, which was because of sin. God sent that, and so this is the way the world is now because of those things. It's not the way that God originally created it. And so, yes, organisms survive in a fallen world because of his design and things like that, but it's not the way it's supposed to be, so to speak. So. All right, more dinosaurs. This is the last dinosaur one, okay?
Study sheds light on the evolution of the earliest dinosaurs. So this goes back to the dinosaur evolutionary tree, basically, and there's basically 2 distinct branches. They have the ornithischians, which are the bird-hipped dinosaurs, which Dr. Menton actually talks quite a bit about in his lectures, and then the saurischians, which are the lizard-hipped dinosaurs. And so they had what they called a classic dinosaur tree that scientists used for a long time. Then they had found new evidence, and they kind of modified that tree and had a revised tree. And now they're kind of saying, well, we think we need to go back to the original tree, basically.
Ping pong, back and forth, right?
Based on different evidence.
I can remember when the revised tree came out because it was really shocking, right? Because they said, no, we were pretty sure this is the way it was, and then they decided, no, it wasn't, that the ornithischians had come off later, apart from the saurischians, and so it was a later time point. And I remember one of the blogs I was reading on this actually showed, I think it was a paleontologist, taking all his dinosaur books and putting them in the trash can. Because he said, now that this revised tree is out, everything we thought we knew, we don't know, we need to unknow, we need to redo. And now, yet again, he should take them out of the trash can, because now we're back to the original tree, yet again.
They talked a lot about fossil layers in this article, and I think, Tim, you wanted to talk a little bit about that, right?
Yeah, they talk about this creature, what's called a dinosauromorph, which kind of looks like a dinosaur, but it's not really. They assume this is some of the early, I don't know if you could say proto-dinosaur type of thing. And if you want to see what one of those might look like, we have a dinosauromorph on the Ark encounter. It's called the Silosaurus, so it's a neat little creature on deck 2. You can check that one out. But I thought it was interesting because they're making a lot of discussion about these layers. They're thinking that dinosaurs originally evolved down in Argentina and somewhere in South America, and then later on they were in North America, and then they'd kind of spread all over from South America. But then they discovered, no, actually it looks like they might be coming on at the same time. They talked about this rock layer that's the same layer in South America as it is in North America, which kind of reminds us of what?
Yeah, the flood.
Like a worldwide flood, something that would lay down these layers all over the place at one time. It sounds just like a worldwide flood, and it makes sense that you would find the same creatures in the same layers.
Right. Yeah. It definitely makes sense from a creation perspective, from a global flood perspective. And, It's just interesting, though, how when you read through this, some of the comments they make, like one of the things they said is, on one of these, the Chinle Formation, they said, we lack animal fossil evidence of any kind, let alone early dinosaurs. This suggests that conditions within this geological window prevented the preservation of any form of life. Okay, but again, that's just sort of because we haven't found any, this must be why. Well, but again, I mean, they're looking at a very specific area. How do you know it's that way? Again, these layers are pretty much uniform all throughout the world, right? We can go to Israel and find the same layers of rock that we have here in America. Dr. Snelling, our geologist, has done a lot of work on that. And so we find these. So just because, again, you can't say, well, because the evidence isn't there, this must be what happened. They just need to do more research and maybe look at it a little more to see that. So.
And they really need to have the right starting point. So I like this statement. There are all these debates about where dinosaurs appeared, how they diversified, what the family tree looked like. A lot of those questions are tied to geochronology, so we really need good, robust age constraints to help answer these questions. Yeah. We've got the answer for you.
We've got them for you.
God made them on day 6, just thousands of years ago, okay? Sorry to sound like a broken record, but that's what happened. That's why they can't explain a lot of these things, because they're looking at it through the wrong lens.
Right. Yeah. You have to have the right starting point to get, facts. People say facts are facts. Well, facts are always interpreted, right? And they're always interpreted in light of a person's worldview, especially when we're looking at things that have happened in the past. All right, no more dinosaurs. That's
no more dinosaurs. All right, Florida man is sentenced to federal prison for threats against a Christian group on Facebook. Media platform ignores the post. So a Florida man posted some very threatening comments on Facebook to the AFA, which is the American
Family.
Just left me. I know.
American Family Association.
I was like, it just left me for a second. But what was really interesting about it was not that he made the threatening comments, and of course the AFA filed a complaint with Facebook, was that Facebook said they did not deem it as really threatening. They said it wasn't a threat to their policy, basically. So that's what was shocking.
But this is what the individual wrote. He said, I am coming to Tupelo, which is where AFA is, in Mississippi, unexpected, with a group of people, and we are going to kill every single person who runs your group. Well, that's pretty threatening. I mean, and it says, you are the most disgusting people in America. I put together a group to have you pieces of blank obliterated into dust. Yes, I literally mean killing you. And it just goes on and on. How is that not threatening? That's very threatening.
That's the definition of a threat. And yet, if this were against any other group that's out there, if it was against an Islamic organization, if it was against any other religious group, maybe with the exception of a Jewish group, sometimes they'll ignore those as well, or any political group other than maybe a really staunchly conservative one, this would be treated as a real threat. They'd be banned from Facebook or Twitter or any of these organizations. But when it's against Christians, hey, it's fair game. It's not a threat. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fall under those guidelines. We see this over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And it's again, sound like a broken record with this, but that's exactly what's going on in our culture.
Facebook's community standards. This is directly from the Facebook website. It says it promises to protect users from hate speech, credible threats, or direct attack on the individual or group.
Yeah.
If that's not a direct attack,
that's not hate speech, I don't know what is. Right. So, so it was good because the U.S. district judge actually sentenced him to prison, community service. He has to pay money. So again, another win. And we have to keep, standing up for these things and fighting for these things, because as Christians, because we can't just let it go. Because the minute you let it go, it'll be gone, so to speak. So we have to fight for our rights and the right to be treated like they would treat any other threat against someone. Basically, it shouldn't be different just because you're a Christian.
Yeah.
So how does that square with the free speech issue then? I mean, shouldn't somebody have the right to say those things? I mean, that's the pushback. That's the way that people will look at it. Say, well, but it's just speech. And it's like, okay, but you're not allowed to make certain threats. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Well, I guess one group of people are allowed to make threats, but other people are not.
That's the problem. It's not consistent. All right, last one.
All right, killing your unborn baby to keep bikini body. No abortion, too frivolous for feminists. So it actually started like 10 years ago when the author basically was saying she had been privy to a pro-life activist who was, she had heard a horrifying story about someone who had planned a vacation, found out she was pregnant, and basically had the abortion because she didn't want to ruin her bathing suit body, as she described it. Well, then 10 years later, more stories about that have surfaced to the point where they actually did an investigation into it, calling the abortion clinics in the United Kingdom. The two big ones are the Marie Stopes and the British Pregnancy Advisory Service. Basically just trying to find out, well, how easy is it to get an abortion? How easy can I get these abortion pills? And what they found is you can basically get abortion pills for absolutely any reason you want, even if it's just emotional, or even if they literally claimed that they didn't want to mess up their bikini body.
Yeah, and it's not surprising because, again, it really is no-fault abortion, so to speak. Like, it doesn't matter what reason you come up with, it's fine. They would just chuck that up to being an emotional reason. Well, that's emotionally, it's disturbing you to have a body that doesn't look good, so you can go ahead and abort the baby. I mean, that's what they'll classify it as, sadly.
Yeah, and be ready for the rhetoric in this debate as well. So they call people, pro-life people, they call them anti-choice campaigners. So of course, and that sounds negative. I mean, you're anti something, you're against something. I mean, should we just call them anti-life or pro-murder or pro-baby dismemberment? Or I mean, should we use that kind of language?
Right.
And because that's really what ultimately many of these people are. And they don't want to say it that way. They want to say, no, it's just a choice. Well, you're making a choice to murder the most innocent of people around, the baby in the womb. And if I can take just a few seconds, we are going to have a new exhibit here at the Creation Museum beginning next month, September 25th. We're going to be opening Fearfully and Wonderfully Made that I've had the privilege to be working on for the last year and a half or so, and it's going to be stunning.
It is.
The designers, the things they're making 12 different baby models, and they are so realistic looking. Just everything about it's going to be powerful, and obviously the writing is going to be the best part because that's the part,
you wrote it.
No, well, the part where it's quoting the Bible, that will be the best part. But,
yeah, exactly.
But it's going to be very powerful, and it's just phase one of that exhibit. Ultimately, we're going to expand that into something bigger, but we're really excited about that. And so check back September 25th, and I think people are going to be blown away by what they see.
Well, and it goes to one of the points that when they were asking two of these women who have had abortions, both of them basically said they just didn't want to have a baby. Right? They didn't say, I don't want to be pregnant anymore. They didn't say, I want to get rid of that clump of cells inside of me. They said, I want to get rid of that baby. And so it just, it goes to show you, they know exactly what they're doing. They know they're killing a child. They know they're killing a baby. They're not calling it anything other than that because a lot of times they want to change the terminology on this, and make it sound like it isn't that, when it really is, and they kind of brought that out. That isn't it interesting that even these people are saying, we know this is a baby and we just want to get rid of it. So we want to show exactly the opposite of that here, that this is a baby according to God's word and according to even what we can see with our eyes. We have some amazing ultrasound footage of babies in the womb. And so it's just going to be a really, we hope, very life-supporting exhibit, right, to help people know and to know that there is hope. We don't want to leave it at that, right? For people that have aborted, these women in this article that they talk about, that there is hope in the gospel of Jesus Christ for forgiveness of sin and and we're going to have some testimonies of that too, of adoption and abortion and just different things that people have been through and struggled, and the value of all of life.
Right, we're going to be stressing that all life from the moment of fertilization is made in the image of God, all human life. And that regardless of physical or mental ability, regardless of your skin shade or anything like that, we're all made in God's image. And that's so important to understand, to have that proper perspective. And so I can't wait for the exhibit to open. It's going to be great.
It's exciting.
And I get to thank Dr. Georgia Purdom for that too. She's been overseeing a lot of that and helping us with some of the technical details. So that's been great.
Yep. So look forward to that. All right. Well, we're out of time for today. So we'll see you back next Monday. Thanks.